Hi, this is Trisha with Yoga Wellness Money. Super excited to be here today because my biggest goal is to teach you, my fellow sisters, like I'm a total girl's girl, about how to build your wealth, pay off debt, save money, and become financially literate across the board. Today I want to talk about how I bought my first house in Laguna Beach. So the very first thing I did was I just set a goal. I was graduating from college and graduate school, and I decided, hey, I want to buy my very own house. Like before I get married, before I do anything else, I want to buy my own place. And I set this goal long before I graduated. And it was sort of the pinnacle of all of my achievements was to own my own home. So I took a job in California, and my boss lived in Laguna Beach, and I loved Laguna Beach. It was so beautiful. And so I went and I found out how much I could get approved for. I was making $60,000 a year, and I got approved for somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000. And I was stoked. And I told my loan broker that I wanted to buy, a condo or a tiny shack in Laguna Beach. And he said, do you know what you could get in Aliso Viejo for that amount of money? And back then it was almost 2,000. And so, yeah, in most states you could get a big home for that. But I just really had a goal to just be in the most beautiful place. And so I set my mind to it. So there's really some key steps I took. First of all, I graduated from college and landed a good job. Second of all, I made it a point to live well below my means. So when most of my friends and acquaintances were asking me and my girlfriend, who had both graduated together, hey, when are you guys going to get new BMWs? I was like, I'm not getting a BMW. I did get a BMW later. I was like, I'm not getting a BMW at all. And so I continued to drive my college car. And it was same with a place to live. Even though I could have afforded probably a pretty nice apartment, I found a little tiny place in Laguna, a little tiny studio apartment right across from the fire station. So I became very familiar with the sound of fire engines because everyone knows the Laguna catches on fire, every 8 or 9 months or so. So I lived in a $600 teeny tiny studio apartment. I decorated it with the bare essentials, a couch, a coffee table, a bed. I think that was all the furniture to my name. And then I set about saving $1,000 a month, and my goal was to save $1,000 a month for an entire year, because back then you could put 3 to 5% down on a home. And so I thought I could save between 3 and 5%. That would give me $12,000 by the end of the year. And sure enough, at the end of the year, before the end of the year, I started talking to a real estate agent, and I got treated kind of interesting. I said, he was a friend of mine, and I said, hey, I want to buy a place here in Laguna. And he looked at me all weird and said, how much money do you make? And I was really taken aback by that, because it just didn't seem like the way you would talk to a client, even though he was a friend of mine. And so anyhow, I set about looking, and I heard that a condo was coming on the market. Hadn't listed yet. Someone told me to go look in the window. I went that night and I looked in the windows. Immediately got on the phone and said, I want it. Put an offer in. And it was listed at $215, and he recommended putting in for $205, and I was like, oh, I don't want to lose it though. And he said, don't worry, trust me. Well, sure enough, the other side accepted the offer. I got this great 2-bedroom condo built in 1959 for $205,000. Actually, I think it was $204,000. And we were in escrow within 4 days. And it was going to close in the next 30 days. So in the meantime, I'm still saving money. The loan broker's calling me saying, hey, no money can suddenly appear in your account. Do you have this? Do you have that? And it came down to closing costs. And I said, what are closing costs? And he said, well, they're just extra costs above your thing for title, insurance, this, that. And I had no idea what he's talking about, but it was another $3,000 or $5,000. And I was completely caught off guard. I had no idea. You know, I was kind of doing this by myself. I was just navigating it. So I had to call the bank of mom, super embarrassing, and tell her I didn't have enough for closing costs. So she gave me I think $3,800. So thank heavens I had that resource, but word to the wise, you need your down payment and your closing costs. So I do have to say though, that buying your first house isn't always just magical. I'll be honest, it was January, so it was kind of overcast. I went into the condo, it had sat empty for a while, and it was just cold and stark and white walls and hardwood floors, and it was just chilly and drafty, and all I owned pretty much could fit into like big giant plastic garbage bags, the big black ones. And so in my house was my 3 or 4 pieces of furniture and these giant garbage sacks of clothes. And I just had this feeling of dread and regret. I had 8 cents in one account. I had 11 cents in the other account. And I thought, what have I done? I mean, really, what have I done? So I went and got in my bathtub and cried in my cold, dank house. Shortly thereafter, I had a friend help me pick out paint colors, decorate around the color of my couch. By the way, if you buy a couch, make sure you love the color or it's very neutral, because that will be sort of the foundation in which you decorate the whole house. Another lesson learned. So if you have that goal for yourself to own a piece of real estate, then don't care what people around you are doing or buying or have or own or think, you know, you should be able to have or own. Really keep your life super simple, because the more you can just buckle down and sacrifice just a little bit, the payoff is so great. Because eventually I sold that condo in Laguna Beach. That's another video for another time. But I made a huge profit, and it has been the down payment on other houses I've bought and other purchases I've made in real estate. And so if you have the ability and you live in an area where you can reasonably afford to buy a home, do whatever you can to get into that first house. And make it a priority to buy in a great location, because compared to where I could have bought and gotten something way bigger, it's almost better to buy something smaller in a nicer neighborhood. I mean, I used to say I lived in the ghetto of Laguna because, you know, my little condo sat on the end of a street of $1 million homes in North Laguna. So, you know, my appreciation wasn't that fast, but it definitely kept pace with the houses around it. So if you have a choice, go smaller in a nicer neighborhood for sure. And remember that all you have to do is just give up a few things and really live below your means, and you can really quickly scrape up that money and even pick up some extra jobs or live at home for 6 months or do whatever it takes. But really, if you're just starting out especially, really make it a priority to own that first piece of real estate, because that's going to grow your equity really fast, as long as you're not, you know, out somewhere in the boondocks. But even if that's true, you know, at least housing is probably affordable. So I just wanted to tell you my story about how I bought my first place, and I hope that you will like this video. And if you have other things that you would love for me to talk about, I'd love to talk about it. I hit $1 million net worth before I was 50 years old, in my late 40s, and I would love to teach you how to do the same as well. Having just a regular 9-to-5 job, not doing anything crazy and being a YouTube star or a social media maven. I'm horrible at social media and quite hate it, actually. But I feel like YouTube is the place where I want to teach and share, and I hope you'll join me on this journey. All right, come visit me over at yogawellnessmoney.com, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.